Zenless Zone Zero is mid. This has been the summary of the majority of Day 1 players' reviews and opinions on the release of Zenless Zone Zero, and I'm one of them. Hi, my name is Atlas, and this video is not about shitting on Zenless, but instead I'm going to look at the pros and cons of this game and maybe something that they could change to make it better. Before we start, I want to know why you think Zenless Zone Zero is bad, mid, or good in your opinion. With that, let's start the video. At the very start of the game, we were given this story where the cunning hares, or the group of Nicole, were getting chased by a group of people from the rotten government. Personally, I feel like the story's comic-like design is good, but the story in itself is mid. Now, yes, I kind of liked it at the start because of that angry dude cursing at the TV, which feels like a good change of phase on gacha game stories. But as I progress into the game's story, I can't help but feel like it is quickly becoming mid. The story just becomes you solving the puzzle on the TV, then people talking through voice communications, and the repetitiveness of it just becomes boring and boring until you get a cutscene animation where it starts to get hype again. It even feels like the puzzle lasts even longer than the combat itself, though that might just be me being dumb. The voice acting of the characters is top-notch, but I think what I don't like about the story is how slowly it builds up. And I know that I'm not alone in this because players have been sharing discontent about this game story and other aspects of it, some of which I don't agree with, but they are nonetheless criticism that the company needs to address. Even the most positive guy in the gacha gaming space thinks that the story is mid. Enough about the story. Let's go to the combat. The combat feels good, in my opinion, and I do see the efforts that the developers have put in. The combat feels creative, especially the parrying animation. When I first saw it on Anby, I was so amazed. The combinations when you're doing a combo feel smooth and fluid. I can't say anything bad about the combat other than it being too easy, which most likely is just because we are still in the early stages of the game. I can see why the developers say that this is the main attraction of this game or something along those lines. The only question that I have is, why not put more of the combat in? As I said earlier, I feel like I'm spending more time or the same amount of time doing the puzzles than I am on combat. I get that this is a Hoyoverse game, where they usually focus more on their story than the other aspects, but you need to play on your strengths here. Wuthering Waves, for example, boasts really flashy character animations and combat fluidity, which is why they focus more on that when you're playing the game. Another example is Honkai Star Rail. Star Rail's combat is not the main focus of this game because they even have auto combat enabled on their game because they know that it is extremely repetitive, which will most likely make the players feel bored. But there are still a lot of players who still play it because the story is good. Out of all the gacha games that I've played, I've never been more hooked on a story than when I played Star Rail. It's truly amazing, and the developers know it. In summary, if both of these gacha games are playing on their strengths, then why can't Zenless do the same? I feel like if there was more combat in this game, I would be more hooked because I just can't get enough of the smooth animations and cool different designs in this game, which we're going to get over right now. The designs on this game are very beautiful. They did not follow the usual Hoyoverse route in their character design, which I think is very bold, and they made it work. I like how unique each character is. We have big booba mommies, we got the furries, and a bunch of little children cosplaying, which leads to the one that I currently see. Why did they make so many childlike characters? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It just feels weird that these kids are committing crimes and fighting the corrupt government and shit. And you make a 12-year-old do that. Now maybe they're going on the shonen/shoujo anime type route with the story. By the way, shonen/shoujo is a genre of anime where the main character is a teenager, which I think fits with their animation. But personally, I've already outgrown that phase of me, so maybe that is why I think that the story is boring. Now let's go to the rewards and gacha. Let me start this by saying that all gacha games are scams. I think all of us can agree with that. But I don't know if this is because Wuthering Waves has raised my standard for a gacha game, but I feel like in yesterday's launch of Zenless, the rewards were a little bit lackluster. Sure, there are a lot of permanent banner pulls, but there are not enough currencies given for the event banner pulls. And in true Hoyoverse fashion, of course, the rate for a 5-star character is 0.6%. The whole gacha system is basically just a copy of the Star Rail's gacha system, which I will say is much better than the Genshin gacha system because their weapon banner is an absolute scam. I just wish that we would have the option to choose the 5-star that we want on the first pity so that re-rolling won't be necessary. And people who have re-rolled know the pain of how hard it is to do it, especially if you want someone from the permanent banner. With that said, I don't really have much more of a comment in the gacha system. I just hope that Zenless won't be so stingy with their rewards in the future, which looks like they will be, based on the current rewards. Lastly, players in the community have shown their discomfort with the UI, specifically on this part of the menu where you could see a lot of buttons that you will see in a gacha game. This is one of the things that I don't agree with in the community because I think that these are perfect. I feel like the people who are saying this are either still not used to this kind of UI, echoing what others said and easily bandwagoned by others' opinions, or they just want to spread hate and want to hate at the game, which is super likely in the gacha space. The reason why I don't have any problems with the UI is that when we look at it, the buttons on the More options are the things that you are not going to click as frequently. That is why saving space and putting them in there to enhance the aesthetics of the screen is the most ideal choice than just putting all the buttons all around. Another reason, and I think this is the main reason why players are calling Zenless mid, is because they have options now. We have Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, Honkai Impact, Honkai Star Rail, etc. They just can't help but compare it to the other gacha game that they are currently playing, which is inevitable since these games have similarities. Sure, compared to other gacha games, Zenless Zone Zero looks stunning, but when you compare it to the current giants in the industry, you just can't help but think that it's mid. This is where you would see the beauty of competition in the gacha space. Looking at this, Zenless would be forced to adapt and get better. I hope that this game will listen to their player reviews and rack their brains thinking about how to make the game better. I have one last question for you viewers. Do you think Zenless would fail in the long run? Personally, I don't think Zenless would fail in terms of revenue, though I think that they won't be at the top of the list for every monthly Sensor Tower gacha game revenue count, but I think that their revenue will be enough to support the game. But if we're talking about the number of viewers and player base, then I think that we might see it drop off in just a month. With that, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And check out this next video because YouTube thinks you'll like it.